Hello, friends. Are you all ready to find out what happens next? If the answer is yes, let's get to it. Chapter 7. The Concealer's Office. We made our way over to the concealer's office after picking up the key Ollie left us. This building looked like a mausoleum from the outside. We climbed the steps up towards the door. There were 6 columns across the porch. 5 windows decorated the building's face, 1 above the door and 2 on each side of it. Once inside, we investigated the long hallways and entered any of the unlocked offices. We looked about for any clues on the place's history and any notes there might have been on me, but still nothing that mentioned my name or experiment number. There was lots about the orphans though. One kid in particular was ready to be adopted, but then pulled back as he was deemed qualified for some sort of testing. No doubt the kind of testing that turns you into a toy. Poor kid. We scoured the open offices and found keys for some of the locked ones. Unlocking some of the other doors led us toward the generator. The room seemed to be getting darker and darker as we traveled further into the offices. "Get down, I hear something," I told my friend. We both got low and picked up into an office that looked pretty empty of any chairs or desks. In the middle of the room was a little Bonzo bunny toy that seemed to be frantically running away from something. Its oversized rabbit feet tripped over themselves and set it down to the floor. In a split second, the figure of Catnap swooped in and took the struggling toy away. My friend gasped and ducked back down. "Oh great, Catnap's in here with us," he complained. "We'll just have to try and be quiet and check every corner before we proceed," I explained. And so we continued our exploration, being as quiet as we could, double-checking each direction before we took one. A little while later, we came across a room filled with red smoke. My friend volunteered to go through the vent to the other side and find a way to drain it for me. I was hesitant to let him go alone, but he insisted that he would be okay for just a few minutes. Trusting in his word, I let him go ahead. I stood in silence for a few minutes, twiddling my fingers, passing around anything to keep my mind from wandering to awful things that could happen to him while he was alone. Soon enough, the red smoke started to drain from the room. The man was standing in the room with his gas mask on, waiting for the rest of it to dissipate. As the substance thinned out, I noticed a figure behind him. Those glaring purple-white pupils made it clear who it was. I tried to wave my arms at the human through the window on the door that separated us. He didn't seem to understand and waved back, so I pointed instead. My friend looked behind with wide eyes. Catnap's quick reflexes pounced on the man before he had a chance to react. One paw held him down, while the other ripped off his gas mask. The feline then breathed that awful red substance into his face. He got a couple times, but then ultimately fell into a deep sleep. I had to get in there. My body rammed into the door shoulder first. It hisses, loosen it. I backed up a few paces and slammed into the door even harder. This time, I broke down the door and rushed to protect the human. You've crossed me one too many times now. The prototype wants to see you, but he didn't say in what condition it had to be. So I think we'll have a little fun first. Catnap sneered at the unconscious human. No, you won't! I yelled at him and rammed into the cat with my shoulder. It took the purple feline off my friend. He skidded across the floor and stabbed himself with his claws. You'll have to deal with me first, I snarled at him, showing my fangs. Fine by me. I haven't had a decent fight in years. Catnap purred. Make sure you don't disappoint me. I roared at the feline as I stood protectively over the human. A growl grew in Catnap's throat too. I rushed the purple cat, aiming to keep him away from my friend. His paws caught my fist as I tried to bring them down onto him. I pulled out of his grip and tried landing a punch again. This time I managed to hit his head, and then he retaliated with a cuff to my head. We whacked at each other a few times before Catnap lunged forward and pinned me down. You're going to have to try harder than that, furball, he taunted me. I turned my head and jumped down on his arm that was next to my head. He yelled in pain, blood oozing from the wound. Using my legs, I pushed him off me. His gangly purple body bounced off the wall. A wave of dust got kicked up from the impact. How's that for the furball? I said as I got up. Catnap merely narrowed his eyes and growled. He now began to rush me. I kept my cool and got him by the shoulders as he tried to pounce on me. Using his momentum to my advantage, I pushed him upward and slammed him into the low ceiling. He yelled as his back collided with the building structure. I then tossed him over my head and let him collapse on the ground. Had enough? I hissed at him. You wish, he hissed right back and swatted a fistful of dust at my face. I tried to block my eyes with my hands, but I did not get to block it all. So I started to rub my eyes vigorously and uttered a cough. Catnap took this opportunity to wrap his prehensile tail around my neck. It gagged me. My yellow fingers tried to pry it away, but it was constricted tight. The feline lashed his tail, tossing me to the side and bouncing off a wall. I could feel a couple of my old wounds getting aggravated. The bandages around my torso started to loosen. Pain shot from my back. I put my hands down on the ground and lifted my head. Catnap was going for my friend. I frantically pushed myself up and hurried over there. The feline had picked the man up in his paw. There was a greedy look in his eyes as he studied the human. I latched my teeth on his shoulder while he was distracted. He screeched and let go of my friend. Acting quick, I caught the man before he fell hard to the ground. A silent sigh ran from my body. "Give him to me!" Catnap roared and tried to reach for the human in my grip. I held my friend away and pushed against the cat's chest with my other hand. "No, never!" I said defiantly as those claws dangled dangerously close to my head and torso. I kicked him away with my leg. This gave me a moment to gently put the man down. I turned to face Catnap again. He had picked up a chair with his tail and tossed it at me. The colorful wooden chair exploded on me, causing my body to collapse against the nearest wall. "Oof!" I exclaimed as my eyes were forced closed for a few seconds. It was enough time for Catnap to charge me again. I rolled out of the way as his claws tried to come down on my chest. If he was going to throw things at me, I would find something to toss at him too. I scrambled to the corner where I picked up a filming cabinet. It was kind of heavy, but I threw it as best I could. The purple cat went to move out of the way. He wasn't fast enough and ended up getting his tail caught under the cabinet. Catnap yelled in pain and proceeded to take the heavy object of his appendage. It was enough of a distraction that he couldn't do anything about me rushing him. He had managed to get the cabinet off, but then I pinned him down like he had done me. I proceeded to throw punches at his face. His head jerked back and forth as I pummeled him. I thought I had him good, but then that tail reached up and wiped my back. It elicited a scream of pain from me and caused my body to freeze up for a second. Catnap smirked and tossed me off of him. I started to get up when the feline tackled me. We tumbled along the floor, trying to pin one another. I tossed punches at him, and he swiped at me with his claws. Those needles of his stung me in a few different spots, one threatening to undo my bandages. He eventually pinned me down and started to wail on my head like I had done to him. "How do you like it? How do you like it?" The purple cat spat at me. I noticed the chair as my head was jerked right. It should be within reach, so I lashed my arm out from the projectile. My fingers wrapped around his leg. Giving it all I had, I slung that piece of furniture back at Catnap's head. He grunted in pain as it exploded on him. The impact tossed him off me. His body rolled over itself before coming to a stop. We both shakily got up on all fours. Both of us panted as we stared each other down. "You should stand down, Catnap," I said to him between breaths. "No, I don't think I will," he huffed with a smear. I caught sight of that tail coming toward me again. Acting quick, I bit down on the skinny thing. The feline yelled in pain as expected. With a jerk of the head, I tossed him against the wall. I followed up and slammed my hands into his shoulders, forcing him against the dusty structure. My hands kept repeating this action. He had to be slowing down by now, shouldn't he? Catnap seemed to find a break in my slams to reach out and give me a powerful cuff to the head. This time he aimed his claws so that they were cut into me. The powerful smack sent me spiraling back. A fierce, stinging gripped the left side of my head. I knew I had to be bleeding. My head lifted up to find Catnap right on me again. This time he winded up and gave me a powerful backhand. I hit the ground face first. His breath hit the back of my neck as he loomed over me. The feline didn't let me react and immediately grabbed my head with his paw. He proceeded to smash my face into the floor. The purple cat only managed to do this 2 times before I forced my elbow back and slugged him in his skinny gut. He grunted and stumbled back. Despite how dizzy I was, I forced myself to attack while he was distracted. I jumped onto his back to avoid dealing with those claws. My fangs clamped down on his shoulder. The cat screamed in agony and started thrashing about. He then jumped up and crushed me against the ceiling. I squealed in pain, ultimately letting go. My body collapsed to the ground next to my enemy. Well, this has been a fun challenge, but I think it's about time we end this now. He taunted as I lay on the ground, trembling in pain. Catnap leaned down and bit my shoulder. I felt my body get picked up and then thrown to the side. This likely meant he was going for a death blow next. Despite my bad shaking, I lifted my head to find the cat pouncing at me with his mouth wide open and claws outstretched. It was as if his jump was in slow motion. Something inside me seemed to snap, and I found the strength to get up and counter. I moved my body out of the way and clapped my fangs down on his torso. The feline screeched in utter agony as blood pooled underneath my fangs. I used his momentum to slam his head into the nearest wall. Catnap collapsed to the ground as I let go. His body said he wouldn't be getting up very fast at all. Something inside me wanted to keep tearing at the feline. A gurgle rose in my throat before I lashed my fangs on his bloody torso again. Poor Catnap screeched and thrashed around in my grip. My shark-like vice was not letting go. Memory of the human's voice rang through my head. Please stop this, Huggy. I think he has had enough. Won't you do it for your best friend? That was when I realized I had been in that crazy state my friend had mentioned. I didn't want to be like that. Not anymore. Maybe I was at one time, but that's not who I really am. Not who I wanted to be. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to let go of the suffering cat. I could taste the blood on my teeth. My tongue licked it off. I took some breaths to calm myself. Catnap's body heaved in pain as well. You should leave, Catnap. You've lost. I snorted at him. His ears twitched and he started to get up. The feline shook with every little movement he did. Looks like I have better things to do than play around with you and your little human toy. he started out. "The prototype wants me back, so we'll have to finish our little dance another time." "The prototype is calling him? Is that what it means when his ears twitch like that?" "I'll be leaving now." He began to slink away, his body low to the ground. "But you'll be there watching as the prototype dissects your little friend." "What did you say?" I snarled and began to chase him to make sure he was leaving. "You're gonna regret." The cat wiped back around and huffed a big cloud of that red smoke in my face. I began to cough. "We'll meet again, furball. Goodbye and good night," he purred in satisfaction as he left the room. I heard his laugh trail off into the distance. My feet only made it a few steps before I collapsed to the ground. As soon as my head made contact with it, I was out cold in a deep sleep. Chapter 8. The Hour of Joy. My head was clouded with that red smoke. It felt as if I was falling into a big pillow of it. Eventually it started to thin out. An image of the bustling factory began to materialize. I found myself back at my post near the entrance of the building. There I stood, still as a statue. My right arm lifted high in a friendly wave. A big smile on my face. It used to hurt after a full day of smiling wide with no break. A group of people stood in front of me. 4 families and 1 employee giving a tour guide. I noticed one kid in particular. It was the one who came to visit me often. He and his family had done that tour probably a dozen times. "And this is Huggy Wuggy. Most of you are probably familiar with him," the tour guide said. Every one of the kids said they had a toy version of me. "Can I touch him?" the one kid said. "Oh no, this was that day. That's when I realized I was reliving that day. The hour of joy happened." The employee hesitated to let him touch me, but ultimately said yes. The kid's small hand gently caressed my leg. "So fluffy and tall," he cooed. I listened to the tour guide's rant. Probably could have recited that whole part myself for as many times as I had heard it. Suddenly there was a loud, high-pitched sound ringing through my head. I tried my best not to break character, but it became too unbearable. A gurgle rose in my throat. Every human in the room looked up at me. Both hands went to the sides of my head. They squeezed and rubbed all over it as my mouth curled down to a frown. But I just couldn't get that awful ringing to stop. "Huggy Wuggy, assume your position," the employee said, but his words sounded muffled and slurred to me. When I didn't obey the command, everyone began to back away from me. The poor unsuspecting visitors had no idea what was going on. Fear began to escalate inside them. I squeezed my eyes shut and began to open my mouth. The side of my shark-like mouth caused the bystanders to shriek in utter fear. And that's when I snapped. My black eyes flung open as I let out an ear-piercing roar. Everyone scattered, or at least tried to. The factory was so filled with humans that they bounced off one another as they clamored to get to an exit. This made them easy targets. Driven by that sound in my head, I began to tear into the humans. If they didn't fall victim to my teeth, they would get lashed with my long arms. There was something satisfying about feeling the human's blood on my teeth, a taste that was addictive. I scooped up a lady in my jaws. My head shook around as my teeth sunk into her internal organs. Her screams quickly dissipated. Blood gushed from her crushed body. No! A scream got my attention. I tossed the carcass to the side and approached the kid that uttered the scream. It was the same one that had touched me. I got down low and approached the boy. Fangs bared and a gurgle in my throat. I was preparing to clamp my teeth down on him when the noise in my head changed frequencies. Something told me to spare the child. Instead, I scooped him up in my arms. Let go! Put me down! The kid panicked and thrashed about in my grip. Adam, a male voice said, put my boy down. I felt a human wail on my leg. It didn't hurt, but it was definitely annoying. I snarled and wiped around. My fangs came down around the man's head. I went to lift the human up. The head ended up detaching from the body, causing a big explosion of that delicious blood. Daddy! The boy in my arms sobbed. I spit out the head. The ringing sound reminded me that I had a different mission with the child. I killed off some more humans as I took the child deep into the factory. My arms finally plopped the child down in Home Sweet Home. Catnap patrolled around the building, making sure the children did not escape and no adults got in. And then off I went to kill more adults and collect more children per that noise in my head. It will get unbearable if I try to stop this mission. I had no choice but to obey. Huggy Wuggy, stop this right now! The CEO of the Bigger Bodies Initiative had found me. I stopped what I was doing and turned to this human. A low growl of pure hatred boiled in my throat. You heard me. You and your other toy friends are going to get punished severely for this. I rushed the CEO, roaring loudly. Do it now, he demanded. All of a sudden, ropes got tossed around me. They squeezed tight and pulled me down to the ground. I squealed in pain as the ropes dug deep into my fur. My yellow hands tried to push me up, but that only resulted in the humans pulling the ropes tighter. I hope you've learned your lesson, Huggy, he said menacingly. You'll be lucky to ever come out of your cage again. And just to make sure you comply, here's a little shock therapy. And then he prodded me with one of those electric sticks. I squealed in pain and my body went limp. A few minutes later, I woke up to find that I was still being dragged away. That noise in my head got even louder, more intense. My head wiped to the side and cut through the rope with one bite. With a shriek of rage, I found a new strafe. It pushed me up and pulled the ropes away from the employees. I ripped through all the ropes and then chased each of them down one by one, all of them finding their end in my jaws, until there was only one left, the CEO. He tried running away, but only succeeded in cornering himself. The man shivered with his back to a wall. He looked pathetic as he tried to curl up in his pristine suit. Stay back, the seal said, pointing that electric stick at me. I merely growled and swatted away. My yellow fingers picked him up by his suit and lifted him eye level with me. I am your creator. I gave you life. You should be grateful to me, he argued, but I wasn't having any of it. My big mouth roared right in his face. Specks of blood from other humans got spit out and spattered his immaculate gown. You wouldn't really do this, would you? He trembled in my hands. Another gurgle emanated from my throat. I aimed my fangs to go around his head. Huggy, can you hear me? Wake up! A voice penetrated to my dream. I felt a nudge to my arm. This caused me to awake with a start while I was mid-lunge for the seal. I reactively bared my fangs and roared at the person waking me up. He yelped and fell back. When I realized it was my friend, I immediately put my fangs away. I'm sorry, friend. It wasn't you. It was a nightmare, he finished for me. Yeah, I had one of those too. It was very realistic. I had wanted to ask what his nightmare was about, but it was probably too personal for him to want to answer right now. Anyway, I finished powering the generator. Let's get you back to the infirmary. You look hurt. I panted and tried to stand up. My body was very shaky and weak after the fight with Catnap. After almost a minute of struggling to get up, I finally made it to my feet. I shuffled after my friend, who was leading me back to the safe place. Thanks for saving me, Huggy. If you hadn't been here to fight off Catnap, I'm sure I would be dead right about now, the man told me. There was a spark of warmness inside me. I think maybe, just maybe, I had regained his trust. If only he would share some things about himself now. The infirmary was inside now, just a little further and I would have relief. I had panted all the way back. My body ached all over from that fight. Hopefully I wouldn't have to tussle with him again anytime soon. I squinted down and saw a figure standing at the door. Is that who I think it is? The tall, pink, furry creature came rushing out to greet us. Oh, did I mention beautiful too? Huggy! Kizzy cried as she came to my side. Let me help you in, she offered, slinging one of my arms over her shoulder. With her supporting some of my weight, the last bit of distance felt much easier. Kizzy helped me in and gently led me to sit down. Oh, Huggy, you're bleeding. Her yellow fingers reached up toward my stinging cheek. I winced a bit as she touched it. Get the kids, quick, she called to the little ones. What happened? Who did this to you? Huggy totally saved me from Catnap, the human said, trying to make my efforts look valiant. That cat would have killed me if he hadn't been there. That was very brave of you, Huggy, Kizzy said to me. But why would you challenge a powerful enemy like Catnap? Don't worry, Kizzy. He won't be bothering us again for a little bit. I got him good. I reassured her. Good to see you again, Huggy, came Poppy's voice. I looked to my left to find a small doll approaching me. It sounds like Catnap got away from you? Sort of, I started out. He was pretty hurt, so I let him leave. What? Poppy gasped. You mean to tell me you had him in your jaws and you just let him go? Huggy, don't you realize he's the last obstacle in our way of getting to the prototype? Next time you have him like that, don't hesitate to kill him. He's hurt and killed so many of us. Don't you understand that? I do. My gaze averted away from her. You gave me a second chance. Why shouldn't he have one? You didn't kill your fellow toys, Huggy. He did, she responded, raising her voice a bit. Poppy then sighed. We can talk about this again later. For now you should rest and heal up. I've got some intel to gather, so I'll see you all later. Her small figure turned to leave the room. The mini Huggies got to work on my wounds, and Kissy offered for me to rest my head on her shoulder. I winced every now and then as the wounds were cleaned and patched up. Poppy's words repeated in my head. Was she right? Should I have killed Catnap? It was a burning question that I wanted some additional opinions on. Friend, Kissy, do you think I made the right choice in letting Catnap go? Of course, Huggy. If we can get him to see how awful the prototype is, he'd be a strong ally to have on our side, the human explained to me. Agreed, Kissy replied. Poppy can sometimes be a little short-sighted when it comes to our mission, so don't let what she said get to you. Our goal should be to save as many friends as we can. Catnap can be our friend too. It was definitely the right thing to do, she reassured me. Make that free, Dad, agree? Came another voice. We all looked over to find Dog Day approaching us. His legs and tail seemed to have been reattached. He slowly walked on all fours our way. Thank you for letting Catnap go. Dog Day, you're okay! Me and the human rejoiced. Yes, thanks to you, he replied. His body seems to be taking well to the reattachment and healing correctly, Kissy said. The orange dog came close and gently lowered himself to the ground. His stitches were clearly still very fragile. Dog Day panted a bit to get his composure. He really isn't such a bad guy. Catnap's just lost his way. But I think he can be guided back, the canine insisted. Really? How so? The man inquired. I strongly believe that the prototype has altered Catnap's memory. You see, Dog Day began his story. Chapter 9, Dog Day's Story. After the hour of joy occurred, the smiling critters lived happily together for quite some time. That was until one day the prototype came and found us. He claimed he was out of orphan children to run his experiments on, so he wanted to use us next. You mean this guy ran experiments on the kids? Why would he do such a thing after the scientists did so many bad things to him? The human interjected. I'm not sure, but I have no doubt that he tortured those kids, Dog Day answered. Being the leader of the smiling critters, I tried to protect my pack, but the prototype was too powerful. I couldn't beat him by myself. That's when Catnap stepped up and tried to help me. He had attempted to put the prototype to sleep with his breath Mo, but the mechanical menace gagged Catnap, making him choke on his own gas. It has ruthlessly knocked him out. We tried to pursue, but the prototype threatened to kill our friend if we came after them. The monster kid Catnap hidden in his lair for weeks. We weren't sure if we would ever see our friend again. But one day, he came back. There was something different about him though. Catnap didn't seem to recognize us, called us traitors. He used his red smoke to put us to sleep and then brought us to the prototype. When I woke up from that deep sleep, I found myself and the other critters stabbed to experiment tables. To my left was Baba Vent, Piggy Piggy, and an empty table. I tried calling out to them, but their lack of response and the sight of their mangled bodies told me they were already dead. To my right was Kicking Chicken, Crafty Corn, and Bobby Bearheart. They were all still alive, but they appeared to be in pain, and so was I. The prototype had started his experiments while we were asleep. That tyrant eventually came back, dragging a mangled Hoppy Hopscotch by the ears. The prototype claimed she didn't have any more parts of value to him, so he called on those monstrous little plushies. We were helpless to do anything as those demons began to eat our rabbit friend alive. I hoped I would never hear such screams of agony from my friends again. A little while later, when the prototype was gone, I managed to chew through my bins and then help the others escape too. With Catnap as his ally, the prototype hunted us down, performed his awful experiments, and then ultimately killed us off, one by one, until I was the only one left. "Gee, that sounds awful," the human said. "So, how did you end up in the playhouse with those little plushies? I'm sure it wasn't by choice." "No, not at all," Dr. replied. "I had a secret corner in the caverns where I had been hiding from the prototype for years. But just earlier today, he finally found me. I sensed his looming presence and tried to get away. He taunted me, saying, 'I finally found you, Bobby. There's no more running from me now.' I didn't get far when he picked me up by the throat. His skinny metallic fingers were cold and strong. I closed my eyes as a bright flash from his eyes tried to blind me. A trick I had seen him use on Catnap many times. 'Leader of the smiling critters, huh? You are nothing but a coward,' he said to me. 'You want to see your friend Catnap again? Well, if you join my mission, you can work alongside him.' Working for the prototype meant capturing and killing fellow toys. I wouldn't do it, not for anything. I opened my eyes a slit, didn't dare do it too far, since he could still use that flash on me. But I was able to spot some pipework lodged in the cave wall. 'I'll never join you. I'd rather die than betray my friends,' I weakly argued with him and kicked out. I landed a solid blow to that pipe. It became dislodged and spewed steam on the prototype. Utterly surprised, he grunted and stumbled back, letting me go in the process. It distracted him just long enough for me to run away from him. I was panicked. My safest hiding spot had been compromised. Where was I to go now? I mindlessly ran, not knowing where I would eventually end up. After a while, I realized the prototype couldn't possibly be following me anymore. I slowed to a stop, panting. My mind reeled, trying to think of a new hiding place. But I didn't have long to think, for the prototype had called his ally to help chase me down. Catnap pounced at me from above. A swift but powerful cuff to the head knocked me down. When I finally woke up, I found Catnap's tail wrapped around my leg. He was dragging me somewhere, hopefully not to the prototype. I silently begged, but when I got a look at my surroundings, I realized we were in the playhouse. More specifically, down the hall that led to our prison cells, where the smiling critters had been locked up by the humans during Playtime Ghost operation for years. I could only imagine that Catnap was going to lock me in my cell until the prototype was ready to see me. No way was I going back in there, so I tried to fight back. I pulled myself up and bit down on Catnap's tail. He yelled in pain and let me go. Once he let go, I attempted to run away from him. "So that's how you want to play it, huh?" I heard him say. "A little game of cat and mouse, and you have just made yourself the mouse." The cat laughed in delight at the thought of chasing down his prey. I continued to run. His footsteps ran behind me. It sounded like he was gaining on me, but then his footfalls disappeared. I ran to the next room and closed the door. It was pretty dark in the playhouse main room. I had a hard time finding my way around and kept bumping into things. Suddenly, a light came on. Catnap appeared in front of me. "I'm disappointed, puppy. You've made this too easy for me." The cat taunted me as he stood on his hind legs and readied his claws. I wanted to keep running, but I knew I would never be able to outrun him, especially in the dark. So I tried standing my ground instead. "Catnap, why are you doing all this? The smiling critters were your friends, your family. Why did you kill them?" I asked him. "My only friend is the prototype. He saved my life after my so-called friends left me to die." Catnap snarled back. "Is that what the prototype told you? We never did anything like that. He's filling your head with lies." "Silence! Your feeble attempts are only delaying your punishment. You should give up and join the prototype side." Catnap was firm in his point of view. "No! You're still my friend, Catnap, and I'll never stop trying to reach you. Please, you have to wake up from this madness." I yelled at him, meaning every word I said. The louder I said it, the more hope I gave myself. And then I noticed my pendant starting to glow. "Ah!" The cat yelled and shielded his face from the growing light. "Huh? What's this?" I wondered, cradling my pendant in my paw. Never had I seen this happen before. It was much like the light that the prototype used on Catnap, seemingly before he filled his head with those stories and lies. An idea started to come to me. If the prototype could wipe his mind of those good memories, then maybe I could bring them back. Before I could do anything to further this plan, Catnap pinned me down. He made sure my face was pressed into the ground. "I think you're done enough stalling. How about a taste of what your friends felt before they met their demise?" His paw slammed my face into the ground a couple times. The cat then wrapped his tail around my neck and dragged me along the ground. I felt myself get tossed into a wall. I whimpered as my aching body sat up. Catnap came and pinned me to the wall, keeping my arms outstretched. I felt something wrap tightly around my left wrist, and then it happened to the right as well. Catnap let go and backed away. My arms were still forced outward and could not move. I looked to both my right and left to find straps tied around my wrists that dangled down from the ceiling. It kept me upright. That's merely a taste of what your friends endured before they died. Would you like another dose of it? Catnap sneered at me. You've become a real bully, Catnap. This isn't you at all. Do you really want to be a miserable person like the prototype? I asked between my heavy pants. This insult to the cat's master only got me another cuff to the head. Ugh! I grunted as my head was jerked to the right. How dare you say that? He hissed at me. You were my best friend, Catnap. I refuse to give up on you. I panted even harder. You were always there for me, even in my darkest of times. It was your hope that made me into the leader of the Smiling Critters, and as your leader, I looked into his eyes as my pen started to glow. You will listen to what I have to say. The cat grimaced and folded his little ears back in the noises. Before I could get my pen nice and bright, Catnap lashed out at me. He sunk his claws into my gut. My eyes bulged wide before a scream of agony belted from my throat. His claws puncturing into me was so painful. I wouldn't be surprised if I shattered some glass from how loud my cry was. When I could scream no more, my head hung down in defeat. Better not scream so loud, Bobby, Catnap whispered to me, lifting up my floppy ear with his paw. Those little plushies might hear you. Screams like that attract them, and the prototype doesn't want you dead just yet. He then removed his claws from my torso. Blood spilled out from the 4 punctured wounds. I had a hard time not screaming when those needles came out and the air hit them. I'm pretty sure I bit down on my lips in the process. His tail slung its way around my neck. Just relax and take a little nap. I'll be back for you soon. A puff of red smoke came out of his mouth as he said that. It danced around my nose and mouth, hypnotizing me into sleep. Later on, I began to wake up. My body was still strung up in my open cell. Catnap had not come back for me yet. A fierce pain was still stinging my gut. I could see a puddle of blood on the ground. If I kept losing blood like this, I knew I would die. My legs already started to feel a bit numb. I weakly looked up at the straps that were supporting my weight. They seemed like they were straining to stay in one piece. If I could just reach up and undo them, I'll be able to get out of the cell at least. Using what strength I had in my legs, I forced myself to stand up tall. It was just enough height for my mouth to reach the strap at my left wrist. I tugged at it until the binding came undone. My arm dropped like a dead weight. I had to shake it to make sure I still had feeling in my limb. Once feeling had come back to it, I reached up and used my claws to tear through the other strap. Now all my weight has shifted to my numb legs. They wobbled and immediately collapsed under me. My body took a dive face first into the ground. The impact of my open wound caused a new wave of pain to spread through my body. My gut was in crippling pain. I bit down on my ears to muffle a scream that desperately wanted to come out. My body writhed on the ground, hoping the pain would somehow subside even for just a little bit. It wasn't going away. I had no choice but to enter the pain. My paws shook as I placed them under me and tried to stand. I managed to make it up. The pain seemed to get even worse as I tried to walk. My body wobbled from side to side. Even the slightest of breeze probably would have knocked me over at that moment. I had only made it a little ways down the hall when an inquisitive little squeak sounded behind me. My body froze on the spot. Had I been spotted? My wide and frightened eyes dared to look back. There in my cell was a little plushy dog day. He inspected my blood puddle. Those emotionless eyes slowly looked up from the trail and saw me near the end of the hall. I held my breath, hoping he wouldn't do it. An ear-splitting shriek emitted from the stuffed animal. A sound I know all too well. The diner bell for the plushies. It was their way of alerting the masses that a meal had been sighted. I gasped and began to run away. If only I could just get outside the playhouse. They didn't go outside of there unless specifically called by Catnap or the prototype. To find the nearest exit, I had to go through the main playroom, had to navigate the tubes and small spaces despite the crippling pain I was in. Every now and then I would toss a glance back to see if it was still following me. The stuffed animal sure was, and each time I looked there were more and more of them pedaling those little legs after me. A whole army of them stampeded in my direction. My fear only escalated as they seemed to get closer and closer. The little dog day one gave a yip. I looked behind, not knowing what that noise might mean. That was a bad move, because it had been calling to its other friends that were hiding in the nook. When I turned back to the front, 5 of those little monsters charged from the front. They jumped and knocked into me. Their little bodies pelted into my arms, chest, and head. I grunted and ended up falling down face first. My wound took another hit. I could feel it oozing more blood as it was aggravated yet again. It was so uncomfortable to have it scraping against the ground. So I groaned and turned myself over. Those plushies came over to inspect me. The first thing they noticed was my bloody wound. Devious little squeaks came from them. One look in their greedy little eyes, and I realized what they were thinking. Those 5 critters that had tackled me took initiative to hold my arms down. "Wait! No! Please, I beg you, don't do this!" I pleaded to them, but my words fell on deaf ears. A group of them began to chomp down on my punctured wounds. I began to scream in agony as they ate away on my body. It was more pain than I could have ever imagined was possible. Tears streamed down my eyes as the devious Baba vent shoved my ear into my mouth to try and muffle my sounds. It giggled in delight at my torture. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, there was an awful crunch and squish, and then I could no longer feel my legs or tail. I looked down to find my upper and lower body separated. An even more intense pain came then. My scream hit its peak. The ear got spit out as I belted the loudest sound I had ever done. Its volume actually knocked some of those pesky critters off me. They ended up giggling and dragging my legs away. Blood pooled around my body. I turned over what was left of my body. My paws dragged me a couple paces before they just gave up. Any hopes of getting out of there alive were gone now. All I could do was close my eyes and wait for the darkness to take me. My body was succumbing to the pain. I had no energy to even scream anymore. I'm sorry, everyone. I couldn't protect you. I failed as a leader. But at least now I get to join you in the afterlife. I whispered to myself as I was about to accept my end. But then you two showed up. I would have died there for sure if it wasn't for both of you. I really owe you, and I want to help with your mission. Well, guys, that's all for now. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, hit like, and turn on the notification bell. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.